I know, because I'm like I coach contenders teams, right?
Right.
Like I'll spend a one-on-one. Like today, I spent a one-on-one with my off tank on one map of Nepal for an
Right.
hour. So,
Right. Depends
like,
how deep you want to go, kind of thing. That's fair.
yeah,
So we generally have up to this point done VOD reviews on our own. So we record our footage like you're seeing here, and one or two of us will kind of go through it and find points of interest, and then we kind of
yeah.
go, what do you think is wrong in this situation, or what do you think we could do better? That's kind of
Okay.
Can I? Do I get the desktop app thing or?
no. Just you should be able to just browse on the link.
Yeah, I know, but like, is it better if I get the desktop link?
I
I
just
don't
I
know.
just do the link, like the website.
Just use the browser.
Alright.
Yeah.
Fucking
So I guess since like as a first vote review, and I might just like aim to give you guys like a direction. So maybe like key points to look out for if you're
Yeah.
doing vote reviews. I think.
Yeah, as in like how we can be self-sufficient.
So this is the one
Yeah.
with the death pit, right?
Cool.
Yes.
So a trick you probably know, like it's good if your two supports, especially if you're playing Mercy Zen, group up with each other so you can see the different colored arrow. So whenever like you need peeling, like it's really easy to flick over.
That's a great idea. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Wait, what's this?
Lucio?
So instead of
Supports.
full tank adding everyone into a group or whatever, if just the supports are grouped together, when you flick as a non-support player, when you flick around the map, you'll be able to identify where the support players are versus the others.
Yeah. So what we normally do is we get like because like we run a lot of Zen Mercy, right? So if like they mostly peel for each other, so if you ever need like I'm low, then a Zen can just flick over to the different colored arrow and like put orb on Mercy, and then same like with your tanks. So like if you're diving in, you know where it is. It's pretty useful, I guess. This is a pretty good comp. I don't know how much you prefer playing Ursa Hog.
We're not
but-
wedded to it. No.
Yeah, generally, because the standard here is actually Ursa Hog, a dive into that is pretty tricky unless you're looking for a widow. But I guess we'll see how you guys play around it.
And if not, I'll just call the dive, and the target doesn't see him. Yeah, follow Calic.
So a trick with Sombra, actually wait, let's have a look at what happens here.
Alright, they're coming right side, be ready to dive.
Okay, so the first thing already is how to utilize Sombra, because it's actually pretty hard, right? The timing is very different to Winston Tracer Diva dive. So generally what we've been doing, what I've been seeing in most contenders is actually the advantage of doing blind dives, right? So what does that mean? That means your Sombra is, you have to think of everything as utilizing every single resource that you have, right? So if you think about, oh, why do we run this over this? You have to like always weigh up the resources that you have. So for example, the reason why you run a Sombra, like one, obviously for the hack, two for the EMP, but three, which is like really underused, I think especially in like open division level, even like masters teams and low GM teams, is that they don't use Sombra enough for the infinite invis for scouting. So what you can actually do is like freely set up in this room or whatever, get your Sombra to free scout, like where a target would be, and you guys can just camp in this room, not taking poke or anything. And then once like maybe you get a hack on a Diva, so you can dive a Mercy or a Zen or a Lucio, you hack a Lucio, you can kill him instantly, then that's the only time when you peek, if that makes sense. So that's the power of Sombra in this composition. That's why you run Sombra Tracer, because you get free scouting, so the enemy team might not even know where you're coming from. Like it's really good to utilize the entire map and corners and stuff. So what you can set up, especially in a dive like this, is you get your Sombra like maybe on that health pack, wait for a hack, and then you go 3, 2, 1 hack, and then you come out of nowhere and then kill a target instantly, and then like maybe 8 times out of 10 you'll get an instant kill out of that for nothing, right? If that makes sense.
Yeah, no risk. Very low risk.
that's been the advantage of running Sombra. Like in short, that's like a very generalized version.
I follow Calic.
The reason why it's tricky on this map is because the places where Sombra can actually get behind are very restricted. Like Sombra can free hack mostly from high ground. Like for example, if Orion was holding shield here and a Sombra was sitting here, that's like a free hack. It's impossible to block that. But if a Sombra was sitting here like behind a team of, let's say, Hog, Orisa, Moira, Lucio, it's pretty hard to get a hack on a specific target that you want. That's why it's a little bit harder to run it on this. So, yeah, I think it's important to weigh out the pros and cons of everything. So, like here, for example, right, your Sombra's not even set up yet, and it's important to note with her invis, she doesn't get the speed boost. And you can use, especially this first point, the point doesn't actually unlock for like 15 seconds. So you don't actually, like, usually what we do is we'd wait for a guaranteed scout and hack, and then come out in like the last 5 seconds, because it doesn't actually matter whether you take this fight now or you take it in the next 5 seconds. There's going to be no point cap. It's like just whoever wins this fight. So you can feel free to like play with your time a bit more, especially with the Sombra. Yeah, Sombra's just like a really different tempo to normal, so it's very different. And then also obviously Winston diving in without D.Va first, it's like pretty risky. They're running Orisa Hog, so it's pretty hard for you to get value out of that, right? As a Winston jumping in by yourself, there's not much you can kill with a Lucio. I think they're running Lucio Messi. It's pretty hard to kill that, especially in the enclosed area. You'd have better chances going in with a Sombra, D.Va, Tracer. And even this point generally on Nepal Sanctum is pretty hard to dive because of how enclosed it is. And Orisa Hog excels in taking brawls, right? So the less you take brawls, the better it is for you. Ideally, if you're weighing out your resources, like I said before, this is a stationary comp that excels in brawls. You guys excel in mobility. That's your advantage. So the way you can play mobility against stationary comps is not actually to, it's like a different concept, right? People think of these comps as dive, but what you should actually be thinking of these comps is actually for mobility. So dive is different to mobility in the fact that when you're using your mobility, you're not doing it to kill, but instead to reposition to an advantageous position, if that makes sense. So for example, what else would be advantageous? Strafing this corner as Winston and D.Va, so you get more poke at them than they do, means you get ult advantage, right? Playing for a boop and playing on the side is like really good for you guys as well. And then playing here as well, you get better point control than them. You're restricting them to this closed area where they force themselves to fight when you can control point. So I guess weigh out what you have and what you're running into and how to maximize your kit, right?
To Mercy, stay on Mercy.
Mercy low.
Nice, nice. Has someone target hold for a sec?
D.Va?
Oops.
I mean, that's like pretty fun to reset, I think.
I'm jumping on point. Don't worry about it.
Orisa's hacked. She's low.
We have numbers advantage on point.
Yeah, so you can even see, right? They're set up here. Even at this point, even when you've lost a few members, when you take the point somewhere else and play for perk, they struggle to recontest, right? Just because you have more ready resources to move than they do, they actually need to like wait for shield, wait for hook, wait for vape, stuff like that. When you can readily jump, place shield, you cap the point. So play to the strengths of your comp, I think.
Get Mercy on point.
So I guess here, I guess just the Winston thing. You have to think of Winston. I don't know. I'm like throwing a bunch of information right now, but I hope it's like
No, it's all good.
okay to
It's all
follow.
good.
As a Winston, what actually makes him a tank is not his health, because he has a pretty large surface area for his health, right? What makes him a tank is actually his shield. If you think about it like Hammond's ability, you know, the ability that gives you extra shield for the more people around you, it's actually like you have to think of it as like a guaranteed 600 health that you can strafe as a bubble, right? Because that extra 600 health is basically shields around you, like extra protection, so that they can't kill you. So right here, if you place, let's just watch it. Sorry. If you place bubble on point, that is your tankiness right there, right? And if you decide to jump out of bubble without bubble, you're jumping in dry. You're jumping in as Winston without any more kit, if that makes sense. You have nothing else to defend you. So I would always manage my bubble usage, right? If you're going in for aggressive dive, you definitely need bubble. So like here, it's like very easy to get caught out by a widow because you don't have bubble. But in the situation that you do have bubble, it's so powerful here, right? It cuts off this guy's line of sight. It cuts off this widow's line of sight. You're free to sit here to aggress. Like obviously, you know, bubble places. You are in the middle of bubble. So this gives you an extra like few meters to zap into whoever's on the other side, for example. So you can use it like the bubble in a very versatile way, and that's why Winston is like very meta.
Jim, just a quick question.
Yeah,
Jim,
me.
Alright.
is this being recorded?
Yeah.
Because I would like to get to bed. I've got school tomorrow.
Oh, okay. Are you recording it?
I am.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
Lovely.
no worries,
Yeah,
good,
I'll go through this over when I've got time
Okay.
tomorrow.
All right, no worries. All right, thanks, man. See ya.
See ya.
Get
Cool,
Mercy
sorry.
on point.
That's fine.
Mercy in the room on the left side. Regroup, guys. We're trickling now.
Yeah, that's good. I think something in comms that is really important, and it really bugs me when people don't do it, especially in contenders level, is when people don't make disengage and engagement calls. So it's good that you guys can do that already. Like
If you just
noticing when you're trickling and stuff is good.
Alright, let's go.
Yeah, I'll rush back.
Onto Diva. Gonna dive Mercy on point. Focus Mercy. In the air. Nice, nice. I'm going on
Simpson back.
Yeah, so here again, you take a fast jump here, and then you take a second jump instantly without bubble, right? So, yeah, you have to weigh up, like even here, you have to think to yourself, do I have to use bubble here? Is there anything that will instantly kill me if I don't place bubble? Because if you don't place bubble here and you still get these instant wipes, right? Then you have flexibility to go further with the bubble. So it's about bubble management, and it's like something that the really good Winstons are really good at, and it just comes with experience, I guess, and lots of VOD reviews.
So the problem in this situation was that there was a widow in the back right, which is threatening to pick off all of her squishies. So that's why I put the bubble on point, and that's why I dived off point, that to basically occupy her, so the people on point could stay alive. So do you think that was a bad decision, or is there a way you would do it?
Okay, so once you jump here, right? If you place bubble here to protect your team, then that's fine, right? You guys should be playing around this bubble, and then if you look at the line of sight, right? If Widow's here and your line of sight is through here, your bubble covers it. And if you're gonna jump into her, the same line of sight is actually covered with your same bubble. So you're doing the job twice in one. Except this jump is actually more for the pick than the disabling, or you're shutting down her line of sight. This is more for the kill than to stop her line of sight, if that makes sense.
Right.
Or you can, if you do have jump after this push and you see, oh, Widow's a threat, maybe I'll just go bubble here instead. And then if you place bubble here, it actually covers the same line of sight as bubbling here, except you have more aggressive capabilities.
So do you think, let's run this situation again. Do you think if I didn't dive onto the point and just ran onto point without my bubble, do you think I would survive?
Let's see.
The Diva. Gonna dive Mercy on point.
So you dive here, and when you place bubble, you're actually still full health, right?
Right. Okay.
If worst case scenario, right, you get down to about 300 health, you place bubble, they can't do damage for you for 600 health, and your Moira just comes in and heals you. So I guess it's about doing the timings of your supports and stuff as well. But generally, unless it's like for a really deep guaranteed pick, I wouldn't be using bubble instantly. I'd like be weighing it up because that like, for example, you see this Widow now, and suddenly you don't have bubble, right? And this bubble didn't necessarily wasn't like a life or death bubble, as you can see in the spot now, right?
Right.
Yeah. So.
Onto Diva.
And not to mention, you have full defense matrix as well, and everything here is probably gonna be defense matrixable, if that's a word.
Focus Mercy. In the air. Nice. I'm going on the back.
So now you're at 300 health, and now you don't have bubble, right? So
Yeah.
something that I don't know if you guys know Mini from Serenity, but
Sniper's
No.
position again. I can't die.
Serenity is like a top 8 team. They I was like really nailing him for it. Not bad, bomb.
Just stay on point.
So at this point, always after a fight has finished, you always alt track. So think about what ult you have, think about what ult they have, and then whoever one is on your team, it doesn't have to be one specific person. Everyone can start like formulating a plan. Like, oh, I think we should use this for this, or like for example, trance their blade, or play close for our whole hog, stuff like that, right? Always weigh out your win condition in between these fights. It should never be silent.
Nice, Psycho.
So at this point, everyone, even this person who's POVing, should be like constantly pressing tab, because there's no fight. You may as well just plan the ults, right? And the more on the same page that you all are on for what the win condition is, the more achievable it will be, because you'll all have the same game plan, right?
Right.
So it should never be silent in between calls. Like in scrims, if I'm sitting, I usually VOD record for my team, because I coach them. I'll if they're ever silent, I'll get really angry and say, stop planning now, right? Whoa, what happened? Oh, someone accidentally took control of this.
Cool tank.
Nope, my bad.
Cool tank went to bed, didn't he?
Yeah, I know, right?
I need to re-put the link. Hold on, sorry. I think I remember what we were up to. This won't take long. Yeah.
Awesome. So with the Winston bubble thing, it's probably would you say that it's a trust in your support thing? Because what you're saying makes sense, assuming that the supports actually do. It feels like he's playing a bit more.
It's not just your support; it's
passive.
also the defense matrix as well. You're both going in.
Right.
Yeah. I guess, well, obviously your jump is reliant on, hey, do your tanks now know to put defense matrix when you do this? Or do your supports now know that we need to be readily healing you if you don't want to commit bubble, right? So this is why this VOD review, even though it's one person moving, everyone should be picking up on the patterns of aggression, right? If that makes sense. So
Yeah,
for example, for everyone to see this situation, and then for this Mercy to be a free pick, everyone should be on the same page of, oh, okay, he'll live. We have an aggressive bubble if he ever wants to play for it. In the end, you'll end up being able to mind read each other's playstyle. That's why for me, even though I'm mainly a support player, I know how to play off tank and main tank and DPS, because as a shot caller, you have to be knowing every single tempo of every single hero.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
So it's a big job for everyone, right? And
Yeah.
the more you know each hero and the niches of each hero, for example, how many seconds, or guessing how much DM your diva has, that's really hard to predict. But after a while, you start getting used to it. Does my Lucio have amp? Stuff like that, and stuff that can be related to sounds as well. Something that people don't usually attend to is auditory cues as well as visual cues. For example, I had this DM hold up matrix for really long, I'm gonna go for a big barrage. That's a really big brain play, because without even looking, you can predict, my win condition's open.
Right.
So you can use sounds really well in this game.
Can we talk a bit about win conditions as well? So
Yeah,
what defines, so in the example you just gave, I have, the problem is I can't just pop it whenever, because it's going to get hit, Diva's going to come up in my face. So we've got a win condition there of, if Diva's not going to come up in my face, I can use barrage and then take out half their team. What how do you normally define those? Like, is it just because there's so many variables, right? Or is it simpler? Am I thinking about it too deep?
Yeah. Okay. Well, so you think of it firstly as the most basic level. So for example, as a barrage, right? Let's say that's your only ult. Your most powerful resource is going to be your barrage.
Right.
So then that means you probably want to play around it, right? That's how is this like? It's like I don't know what it's like. You use something as an anchor for you to know how you swing the fight in your favor. So for example, let's say I'm going for a big barrage. So then everyone needs to be thinking, right now, if you do it consciously, and the more you vote review it, the more instinctual it will become for all of you.
Right.
And like obviously, if like Overwatch League players, contenders players, it like becomes instinctual once you get to that level. So, but obviously, we all started with doing consciously thinking, okay, what do I need? What could the enemy possibly have to stop our barrage? So for
Right.
example, one, a full matrix and a diva in suit. So maybe your win condition is to actually demech diva. So
Right.
indirectly, by demeching diva, you've enabled your win condition of setting up a barrage.
Right.
For example, oh, we have blade, we have nano blade or something, but they have transcendence. Indirectly, your win condition then is to dive deep. Maybe you dive deep with Valkyrie for sustain, and then you force out trans, and then you blade into it after the
Right.
transcendence.
So
Right.
are win conditions always based off ultimates?
Not always. Like for example, in a dry fight, your win like for example on this map, it's a good example. If you're running Ursa Hog, your win condition can be your hook suck combo.
Right.
Or maybe your win condition is to like do a boop, or maybe it's to hack like especially in Sombra comps, if you're looking for a dive, maybe your win condition is okay, we hack Diva so she has no matrix, and then we full dive the Zen because he doesn't have matrix on him, right?
Right.
So there is definitely win conditions in a dry fight, but if you do have ultimate, you be using it as an anchor because it's your most powerful abilities, right? Obviously.
Right.
It has whatever has the highest kill potential. Or like for example, if you have like a go-to leader player on your team, maybe you want to enable sightlines. Or like you see NYXL, if you've been following Overwatch League, the win condition is to peel for Jonak.
Yeah.
So there can be dry win conditions, but there's also ultimates that you should be taking into account. Or like more complicated example is if they have 6 ults and you have none, maybe your win condition for the next fight is to dry push it, make sure you don't use any ults, and maybe force a transcendence. That's something London Spitfire does a lot. Is they call it eco dive, where Gesture and Prophet will just free dive into a Zenyatta and force trance without using ults. They die instantly, and then next fight they play for ults like Blade or something.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Cool.
I meant to send you guys that video. It's like a really good dive video, I think.
Okay,
It's very
awesome.
good. It's like our Tracer and Winston's Bible.
Awesome. Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, so for example, if you have EMP, maybe you want to play it on point. So maybe you want to play back. Or if you have Coalescence, maybe you want to play it in this tight corridor, so you play front. Right? So enabling your win conditions. And the less you use, the better you can ration your ults for the fight, right? So if you say, oh, Coalescence up close, or Coalescence in this corridor is our win condition, and you just use Coalescence to win the fight, how huge is that, right? You have 5 ults for the next fight.
Right.
Or you can maybe say, oh, we'll use beat defensively, or beat offensively. Like there's so many different combinations you can use with your resources, right?
So how is Coalescence in the whole way a win condition though?
So first, like the animation of Coalescence just blinds everyone, and it's like constant damage and very good healing. So if you actually chuck in a healing orb in here and bounce it on the walls and Coalescence, that's basically like almost as strong. It's like maybe half as strong as a trance, but it's still pretty strong, right?
Right. Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay, cool.
But like maybe against their comp they can sustain it, but it's like you have to weigh these things up, right? Maybe you're playing for Pulse Bomb, maybe you're playing for EMP.
Right. I don't know if you want to unmute the game or not.
So this bubble, for example, like we didn't get much value out of it, right? There wasn't any aggression or you're not really defending them pushing in. So bubble usage, it will turn you into a 4K Winston. Once you like analyze why things happen. So like you see here, right? EMP is really good here for a dive, but comboed with Coalescence, you don't actually get like a straight linear beam. It's like pretty hard to position, right? So like you can see like you have to come around this corner. Ideally the more people you get in a straight line the better. And this is like a perfect place to do it. Like this angle or even this diagonal. Oh, sorry, that's a really bad line. The more value you can get in your coalescence, the better, right? But obviously this is a very small things, right? But sometimes it can turn the game for you.
Right.
I don't know if you know as well, but if you like, I don't know if you know about spray healing on Moira. Where if you tap the healing and then let go, and then tap the healing again and then let go, the healing actually stays for a bit.
Oh, really?
Without using your fuel. So if there's no fight being engaged and you like tap, let go, it actually heals the same amount for less juice.
Yeah, so if you've got time, then that's like a really...
Yeah, and especially when you can't really like suck anyone.
Yeah.
It's really good to ration your...
Feather it.
Yeah. This is pretty scary crossing here.
It was team kill just before.
Yeah.
If that makes it more justified.
I don't make that a habit. So still not much pressing tab, right? And not much ult planning here. Usually after the first fight, you'll have ults to rotate every single fight. There's not many situations where you have no ults unless you really blow all 6 of your ults without planning it. But once you get better at ult tracking and planning, you'll never be short on an ult, especially with a pulse bomb. Good call on their bubble.
Coming up tomorrow.
Oh, nice eat.
Okay. Use some heals. Thank you.
Nice.
Diving the snipers.
Yeah, so the dive without bubble is actually like really hard, especially against Orisa Hog. Like even a dive with bubble is really hard with, I mean, Orisa D.Va even. Like D.Va can peel even more than Hog subjectively.
Diving the snipers.
But you see, it's like really easy to punish a Winston without a shield.
Change target. Someone target call.
Even like being patient, you can even be like, I have no shield, I can't dive that, and then you play passive for a while, and then maybe use shield later on. Is a really good call, just to make sure it doesn't like become 5v6, or like you're not committing your jump for nothing, right? If that makes sense.
Right.
Alright, regroup.
Stable.
Let's try and push.
It's good like regroup and group calls there.
Like, we should have like 4 or 5.
A lot of teams lack it, even in contenders.
Let's wait for everyone to get here.
Do we want to speed boost in?
Yep.
Alright, we ready?
Yeah, let's go on
3,
left side.
2, 1.
Yep. And around the back.
So with your speed boost, you don't actually have to use it there, right? You can speed boost through here and still be safe. So you can even just use your speed boost in that engage later on, if you know what I mean. Or even use it to amp heals because you already have 2 mobile tanks.
As in, there was no advantage to running faster through that left section because they wouldn't have acted on it.
Yeah, because like you use speed boost mostly to engage on something, right? But right here, you're like using it to set up. You may as well just like use D.Va boosters and Winston jump to get through here, if that makes sense.
Right.
And then, because it's a 13-second cooldown, now you don't have amp heals for this next dive, which is probably when you need it more.
Right.
Yeah.
And around the back.
Yep.
On far right. Mercy coming up.
This is a
Nice,
good
nice.
coalescence angle.
Chuck us on point.
On Widow.
It's alone.
Widow back room.
He came around and killed me after.
Nice, nice. Good job, guys.
Yeah, well done. Oof. All right, let's try and stall them a bit. Oh, I got super lag.
Yeah,
Do you wanna
it's not
stall?
bad. I think one thing is your Diva and Winston dive should be the same. Probably the most important thing is that Winston's jump can be reached 95% of the time by Diva's rockets. So as long as you use your mobility at the same time, you land at the same time. Yeah, I think that's the main thing from this.
Awesome.
No, I think Lucy.
This isn't official, right?
This match?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, this is a tournament match for AAL.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, we're doing an AOL thing, the Rise Up thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, my team's in that. We're like a
Oh,
new
cool.
team. So hopefully it should be good.
Well, no wonder you don't get it.
This is my Optus internet dropped out, so I'm just switching to tethered on my phone to play. Piece of crap. Optus.
That's the funny part, really.
You guys can all hear the in-game video voice, right?
They can hear
Yep.
you.
Yeah, I didn't have it on for ages, but I have turned it on now.
All right, cool. I only realized that I thought it was a global setting, and I realized that I could adjust the volume myself. Cool.
Also, I don't know when you guys aim to finish up or whatever,
Sends
but yeah, I'm not.
when you're done, I think.
I think you guys should set a limit because I could literally do VOD reviews for 24 hours a day.
I don't know if we have the stamina for that.
I need to
you
go in
guys.
about 15 minutes. I don't know about the rest of you guys.
I'm happy to stick
Maybe
around.
we just wrap up at 11 then.
Yeah.
Also, if any of you guys want one-on-ones, I think I'm probably by 2 strengths. I'm probably one-on-ones and comms in teams.
Yeah. Okay.
I can link you my Discord where
Yeah.
you guys can just ask me whenever, and my team schedules there as well, so you can if you want to book around their scheduling,
Yeah.
feel free to, because I don't know, I just like doing VOD reviews and coaching.
Awesome. And that's not hero specific or anything like that. You can
No.
coach anyone on anything.
Yeah.
Let's go, guys.
Sounds good.
So now your Diva went in first. So
Oh,
you should be aiming to look to
Is it playing for you guys?
Oh
Yeah.
It was just lagging for me then.
Oh, it's stuck.
If
on
it's
the thing.
if it's stopped, you might have to refresh and then it will be
Yeah.
back.
Yeah. I'll refresh.
Yep.
I'll
Go
keep
right
it playing
next to
so it doesn't look like it's frozen.
Fire's low.
I'm
He's
on
doing
Hunter.
awesome.
Fire's down.
Sen's alone.
It's just black. Hang on.
Ben's down. On Mercy, she's 1. Mercy's down. On Hanzo next. In the back.
Right on point.
Hanzo is low in the back.
Right, chasing.
Focus Aya on point.
Yeah, not bad.
Nice.
Chase Hanzo.
It seems you guys favor dive more, right?
We've
That's
just
what
been
we practice
practicing
really.
because we didn't have it a few weeks ago, and so we've just really been trying to work on it.
We need
That's
one
good.
change.
I'll definitely send you this video then. I think it's a really good anchor for every player. It's about Winston Tracer dives, and especially with the Sombra, it can be even more powerful.
I'm coming mid. I'll dive the Hanzo in the back.
Yep.
And I'll get Zen as well. Zen's down. Hanzo's down after Mercy.
Oh, nice, Lucy. Popping off.
Stay on Mercy.
Chaser,
It's still on
chaser,
the pause
chaser.
screen for me for some reason, but it's playing, which is weird.
Behind.
Oh.
I'll go get her.
For me.
It's working for you guys? Okay. Never mind. I'll try and troubleshoot.
That's when you're so far forward.
Fall back for 2.
You went very deep there, buddy.
There's 4 of us on point.
No alt calls again. I think that's the biggest thing. The planning, I think, will really help you guys improve lots. Because if you think about it like this, right? I played on like the bottom, the like literally the maybe second worst contenders team in season 1, and we would get rolled and rolled and rolled every single fight because we'd blow 6 ults, and the enemy team would know how to ration their 3 ults to win the fight. And the reason is because if you like, let's say in the hypothetical, you don't have ults and the enemy doesn't have ults. Let's say they're more mechanically they have the mechanical edge on your team, then they're gonna win that fight. Let's say that you have 6 ults and they have 6 ults. They're probably gonna win that as well, right? But let's say you have 6 ults and they have 3 ults. If you don't use your ults well, then they're gonna win that as well. So your chances of winning just become lower and lower and lower and lower. And not saying like in this situation, but it'll really, if you guys want to be like that team that just destroys, rotating ults can like really make you steamroll teams, if that makes sense. Just going in with a plan.
Are we up to the Moira on the point with
Okay.
everyone?
Yeah.
Through, okay,
You
cool.
just press coalescence.
You got through us.
I like it out.
Feel that.
Yeah, perfect. That's what I saw.
Oh, we blocked the dragon.
So, are you good?
This is Ag point of view, not mine. That's me doing
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Let's go.
The top.
I just type straight in.
I got speed
Great.
boost. Speed boosting 3, 2, 1.
Yep. Onto Mercy.
I have my ult. You want me to use it?
Wow, Moira regens so much with her right click, it's insane.
Yeah.
Super low Mercy. Focus Mercy.
Mercy still.
This is a good target for us. You see this? If you like play for that, and your diva like is always looking for a barrage, and you like already have full DM ready, if you full DM a Farah and she's not dead yet, and then you fly into her, that's like a guaranteed kill on a Farah, and she does nothing, right? And it's really easy to shut down a barrage. But it's such a powerful ult. Like if they manage to force full DM out of you,
Mercy's hacked on the left.
Yep.
this is good target for us. Your Tracer's actually pretty responsive to comms, which is good.
Nice on.
It's something that we've been
Jim's the
focusing on
most
because
responsive, yeah.
we were so bad at it that it's something we just tried to hammer on. We still have heaps to,
Start
but
left.
Powers up above.
it's been a pain point for us historically.
You don't want to die.
It's the right idea for dive.
Yeah.
I think usually it's weird, right? Because usually it would be the Tracer that's the issue in a dive. I'd always be like, oh, you're not listening to comms. You're asking where the targets are, but they're literally being said right in your ears. But I think the main thing that you can polish your dive on is your tank, shield, and DM usage, and then landing together. I think that will really polish up your dive.
I shot her in
Yeah,
the
I
video.
got most of it.
It's as like you can even just do like a 3-2-1 dive. Like that's where most teams start.
Let them push
Mm.
next.
Still.
Otherwise, like if you start doing 3-2-1 dives, and then later on, if you get more comfortable with each other, like playing, then you'll start to know what your Winston will be doing before he dives, and you'll just be ready for it. Like for example, if our Winston's like peeking behind a corner and not using mobility, like obviously I know he's eyeing down a target in the back, so I'll have like full DM ready and my boosters ready, right?
Right.
So,
So I guess the idea is that you guys come to the same conclusion without discussing.
yeah, and you can kind of tell what each other is thinking depending on how you move your hero, like if that makes sense.
Right.
And it's really important as a diva player because I guess this is a bit off topic. Diva is the only ability that can eat abilities, right?
Right.
And if you like, for example, big brain diva plays, right? If you see a Tracer blinking around not using ammo, she's probably looking for a pulse bomb, because why would a Tracer attract attention with ammo if she can one-shot a squishy, right? She won't be shooting. That's like the natural behavior for a Tracer. Or like, for example, if Zarya is like really pushing in front of her Rand shield, maybe you can eat the grav because you're expecting a grav. But then obviously when you get to high level play, they start playing around the grav. The Tracers start shooting in weird patterns, and then there's like even more mind games, right? So predicting your enemy as well as your own team's movements and habits is like really good. It'll like really turn you into GM players. No joke.
Mercy's down. On Zen next.
I got caught in Zaya's ult.
Should use your healing orb more, I think.
Yeah, I hear that a lot.
Okay, we can
Yeah.
start the next
I
push
agree.
with my
Yeah.
He's a very aggressive Moira.
The healing orb does 300 health HP, and damage does 200, so better off doing healing orb more than likely.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just
The healing orb into a team fight is actually enabling more aggression than your damage orb, in my opinion. Just because this, with your damage orb, right? You're doing residual damage, but with your healing orb, you're actually enabling your tank, especially with a Winston. Like that's already his kit is already residual damage, right? So you get the same value, I think, in your healing orb than your damage orb in terms of aggression, except you're enabling more people potentially, and you're building more ult charge potentially as well. But it depends.
Are we ready? Are we good to go?
A lot of contenders, Moiras, I think it was like 80%, maybe even more, like 86%. They use the healing orb over the damage orb. But that comes
Wow,
with
that's quite a lot.
Yep.
yeah, that comes with cleaner fights as well.
Here, where we are.
Yep.
Right.
Alright, let's go.
I got pulse bomb. Speed boosting 3, 2.
This is a good speed boost. Like you see, you use it to engage,
Yep,
and you get a lot of value out of it because because your tanks have mobility, right? There's no point in them jumping out of speed boost and then you pressing speed boost. So here, this is really good. I don't know if you did it on purpose, but you use speed boost and then you use mobility. So you get maximum distance, right? And then obviously, if I see people going unders, I don't expect them to reach all the way behind this pillar. So this is really good execution, I think.
Right.
Moira's down as well.
Mercy down.
Yeah.
Moira's down.
Ryan hard on point. Ryan.
That's good. Like this guy didn't even like heal, and you guys wiped 6. Like that's the good execution. You just deleted their health way faster than them.
Have you
Okay.
noticed that?
We should probably end it there. I guess we can have like our questions to wrap things up.
Yeah. That sounds good.
If you guys have any.
Yeah. Anyone want to jump in?
Yeah, see, it's like an hour per map. This is like a normal VOD review.
Yeah. That's fine. I mean, I really appreciate it. I think we got a lot from there. I've been taking some notes as well. Does anyone have any questions, guys?
Yes.
Shoot.
My question as the shot caller in this team is if you have any advice on how to manage the mental bandwidth for doing shot calling while also playing tank characters at the same time, which kind of require kind of a mental game individually, just in your own gameplay.
So you're the tank player. You're main tank?
So I'm either the Winston or the Reinhardt in whatever team comp we're using, and I'm also the main shot caller.
Okay. Sorry. Repeat your question again.
So basically, do you have any advice on how to basically like manage like the mental bandwidth, I suppose, of playing both of those roles at the same time?
Of which role? Like main tank and shot caller?
And shot caller at the same time, yeah.
Yeah, so I guess the most important thing about being shot caller, I'll actually send you this guy called Intellicide.
Spell that for me.
Sorry?
I spell it.
We've played against him.
No. There was just a guy that messaged me and asked me about do you think like stuff about comms and shot calling, and I'll send that through to you what I said to him as well.
Oh, okay.
But I think my main thing for shot calling is that as a shot caller, obviously you need to be talking a lot, but the most important thing is actually you need to be listening 5 times as much as you call, because you have 5 members of comms to process, right? And the more you can process that information, the better. The better your comms and like your calls are gonna be. Like an example I gave this guy was talking about win conditions. Let's say like second point Hanamura on attack. They have Transcendence and we have Blade, and we want to Blade as our win condition, and it's like what, last 30 seconds of your push. Especially as a Winston player, you don't know where that Zen is, but your job is to force out that trance, right?
Yep.
If you're using all the information from last fight and from what you saw, you can predict where the Zen is going to be in the next fight. Like, where did I see the Zen sitting last fight? Did I hear anyone calling Zen as a target? Like, where was that? And you can get lots of information from not even looking at where he is, right?
Right, and a follow-up question on that point is when we first started playing as a team together, we felt that we had an issue with our calls being too convoluted and too kind of messy, just too many people talking at the same time. So we started practicing kind of setting a standard of trying to reduce calls and listening to what I say. So do you feel like instead of focusing on that, we should, like as a team, be more focused on kind of adding the calls together?
Yeah, so it's actually really hard without someone like looking over during scrims. The idea of cutting down comms, I guess gives more space for listening, but you can, as long as you're consciously listening to each other while speaking, then it's fine because what you will say is more informed because you're listening to each other, if that makes sense.
So you're saying the skill we should be trying to foster the most is listening to each other, pretty
Yeah.
much. Okay.
Cause I don't know, I'm not a big fan, although it's hard to cut comms. I'm more of a fan of like, instead of everyone calling different targets, why don't you listen to each other and echo the same target? Like, for example, if you're like diving a Zen in the back and Messi on point, if you like weigh out your options, it like, is the Messi on point a better target than this full health Zen I'm trying to one clip? Then commit blinks back to point and shoot the Messi instead. So it's weighing up the pros and cons of your target versus like what you see in front of you versus what you hear.
Right.
And that's something that is really valued, especially in DPS players and Diva players in contenders right now.
Right.
Is
Have you
people
got any?
that can react.
Have you got any ways that you might suggest to practice listening? Like, how do people skill up in listening?
So one of the people I've been doing lots of one-on-ones with is QVN, and he's like a really good tracer player. He's like a 4K tracer player, but when he first started, he like did not listen to comms at all.
Yeah.
And what we normally do is get a peer review VOD, and we timestamp every time he has had to make a decision of whether to do what's in front of him or whether to follow the calls.
Right.
And then think, how would this have played out if I went for this or went for this or went for this, right? And especially as a tracer player, because you have so much flexibility in what you do there. And it's also Diva players. Like, for example, do I DM my monkey going in? Do I do boosters into the dive? Do I peel for my Zen? There's so many different things you can do on Diva, right? Do I save DM for my barrage, or do I go for aggressive with my DM? Because DM and the tracer blinks are just so flexible in their potential to be offensive and defensive abilities.
Right.
They're just like so broken, right? I think DM is broken. But
so the idea is to watch VODs of your matches, and then when you come across these decision moments, go through them slowly. Now knowing what you've heard, not in the heat of the moment, would you have made the same decision? And that exercise in itself will help. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. And like even during my one-on-ones, right? I'll be like, so why did you decide to bomb that? Like I did peer reviews with Breezy, who's our off-tank player today, and I said, why did you decide to bomb that when your team called to dive this target? You've just wasted your presence in the fight is lost because you decided to go for Diva bomb. And he said, oh, did they call dive? And you can hear everyone's going dive, 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 dive Zen, dive Zen. And it's like, I know in the moment, like all the comms like stop, like especially if we're Diva player, like I'm gonna go for big bomb, big bomb, big bomb. But yeah, it's about knowing when to listen, when to predict when your team is gonna dive, and it's especially hard for tracer and Diva players, I think, and extremely valuable.
So when you say like echoing the comms, is that sort of like just like a re-encouragement, I guess?
So what I like to focus on in comms and what I really value, I always like to analyze people's voices, right? It's like a weird thing where I really value people that can do calm planning, but can also be urgent in their focus calls. So the point of echoing is actually for the sense of urgency, right? So for example, let's say one person is calling a full health Winston on point. one person is calling a Messi that just came out of maybe a Messi that's full health on Elephant. Let's think about this map. So Winston's on point, Messi's at Elephant, and Zen is coming out of trance near your spawn, and you have one person on each, right? And you hear all of those said at once. But if you process the information properly, Zen or Messi is probably like your best target, right? So then you start echoing that target, and then hopefully, like whatever resource you have near it will turn to it. If that makes sense, it's like a bit complicated. Let's say there's like a Zarya.
I think that does make sense
your...
actually. So if you're like so three people, the thing Metal was talking about before is when we first started, and this is like in our first 2 weeks, we would be trying to like advance forward behind a Rhine shield or something, and we would hear, you know, Sombra behind, and then the next thing you'd hear was Tracer behind, and the next thing you'd hear was Widows up the back, and the next thing you would hear was this, and it was just like everyone was going for something different. But what you're saying is if you hear, I guess if someone goes, oh, Winston on point, and then someone goes, Mercy at the back, Mercy at the back, like the sense of urgency is supposed to increase with the priority of the target.
Yeah, and you know, actually, I learned this recently, and I've never heard it before. Out of like my year of coaching, I've never heard this more valuable comm. Is our Diva player started saying, so for example, you guys would be calling different targets, and we'd go, oh, change Messi, and everyone would change to the Messi as the focus call.
Yeah.
Or like for example, if a Winston just jumps point to stall, like you know, like stalling, and Winston jumps on, and then Messi suddenly flies in, but the Winston's like 300 health left, and you go switch Messi, she has no fly, and everyone just switches to Messi, she like instantly gets melted. So I guess with urgency and just I guess as a team coming to a mutual agreement to what you should be echoing is like really valuable, because the advantage of echoing is that everyone can still be vocal, but vocal about the same thing, right? Instead of cutting down comms, you're just all on the same page. And I think it's something that's really valuable to train, but I know it doesn't instantaneously work for some teams that I've worked with, and even contenders teams.
Right. That's kind of what we discussed actually early on, because when you look at top teams, when we listen to their comms, they're not quiet for sure. They're all yelling the same thing.
For like Korean teams, right? Like you
Right.
hear them, they're like, go on this, and everyone's just like yelling the same thing, and it's like so amazing how everyone can be talking, but everyone's listening 5 times as much to all 5 of their other teammates, right?
Right.
I think that's the goal. Because in the end, it's a team game, and the more you utilize your teammates, the better off you guys will play.
Well, that will lighten Metal's shot caller's load as well, because if you've got the hive mind kind of working with you, you're not.
I do agree with that actually. Like it's some of the worst focusing moments we've had is when Metal says focus. The other week's a really good example. Focus Moira, and no one else says anything else, which technically you should have 5 people screaming focus Moira because it's.
Yeah. Like even echo calls can be like, oh yeah, I'm on it, and then people know, oh, we're committing that to it. Oh, maybe I'll commit as well. Maybe they're fine committing to Moira on their own. Like it's like up to your decision. And sometimes,
sorry. Go ahead.
Sometimes the best decision is to not follow the call. Like that's really situational as well. For example, if you're a Tracer and you see a Zen on his own discorded in the back, and you hear Messi's on point, right? That sounds like a really good target for you, but Zen is right there with no peeling with a discord on him. You like may as well go for the one clip. Like it's very situational, right? And it like the best players make those decisions and have like a really high success rate of picking the right thing. Like you see Tay Bilby, he's like really good at decision making.
Right. Okay, I have another question or two. There should be shortish ones though. In terms of alt tracking, because you're saying, in between team fights or when there's lulls, we should all be, hitting tab and thinking about who's doing what. In terms of skilling up in that, because it's not the easiest thing to do. I've heard, I think it was maybe Jane said this, but with alt tracking, think about what your counterpart on the other team has. So if you're playing Zen and you just got Transcendence, that should be a kind of gauge for what their Zen is like or is at. Do you have anything else? You think that's a good idea, right?
Yeah, that's.
Sorry. Go Still there?
anchor for knowing what ults they have, but like
Right.
also weighing up like, oh, did the Zen die early, or did he get a lot of free shooting into us, like stuff like
Right.
that as well.
So you use yours as a yardstick, and then depending on how the team fights have, played out, you should know he's got better than me or he's worse than me, kind of thing, and by how much roughly. And then you look at expanding that to the rest of the team, right?
Yeah.
Once you get good, I guess.
And so I guess the other thing that's really valuable, I don't know your main support player or if you play much Mercy anyway. I moved in Mercy meta, right? I played in Season 1 contenders, and I moved from aim support to main support to be a shot caller. And there was huge value in playing Mercy, and I actually really enjoy playing Mercy because she has the only ability, speaking of resources, right? You have to learn the niche of each hero, and for example, Diva can eat abilities, like only hero that can do that. And then Mercy is the only hero that can speed up the ult generation of abilities, right? Because of her damage boost.
Right.
She's the only one that can directly make your ults charge faster. And something that Neptuno brought up as well, which I really agree with, and I've been like really enforcing in Mercy players, is one, use your damage boost for the game-changing ults. For example, you always damage boost your Zarya if a Diva's diving into her because you build grab faster than them. And like, for example, pulse bombs, like you can build all these ults with damage boost, right? 30% faster. And the biggest advantage of having your Mercy player's ult tracker, which is probably a standard in teams, is to have your Mercy as ult tracker, is that your Mercy's kit and who she's damage boosting is actually affected by her pressing tab and knowing who to damage boost and charge ult next. So naturally, your Mercy player should be pressing tab. And if you're thinking, oh, my Zarya only has 30% grav, they just use grav. They don't have grav this fight. So it's like really valuable for a Mercy player to be ult tracking. Also for a Diva player, because you should be always looking out for what can I eat. You see, I don't know if you know the top contenders teams in Australia, but I worked recently with Avant, who's a top 8 team, and their off tank, Crimson Wolf, is the most god tier ult tracker I've ever met in my life. And he's an off tank. I never expect that from an off tank. And it's because he's always looking to eat pulse bombs, to eat grabs, to eat barrages, and he's always keeping track of what he needs to save DM to eat. And making sure he's not forced out of mech or forced to use DM before their win condition comes out. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like, there's lots of layers to I don't know. Yeah.
Awesome. Anyone have any other questions? I have one more. Anyone else ask before?
Just remind me how to contact you for one-on-ones, Joe.
So you can message me on Discord. Otherwise, I can link my my Discord server, which I'm using temporarily for the team I built.
Yeah, perfect.
So I guess I'll send it to you, and then you can like
redistribute.
Somehow.
No worries.
Yeah.
Easy. Cool.
I'll send it to this guy. Here.
This guy, that's me. Thanks.
I'm not used to your voices yet, but I'm sure.
That's fair. That's fair. No, that's fair. So ongoing wise, again, thanks for like your hour and a bit. Really appreciate it. You're happy to do this as a semi regular kind of thing, assuming we book you in.
Feel free to ask me. Like, I've been very freed up as of recently, which is a big relief. So I'm like keen to start getting into lots of coaching again.
Okay. No, awesome. Well, we definitely will capitalize off that. If you let us, if you give, we'll given what is it? Give a hand, we'll take an arm, kind of thing. So watch out.
Yeah. I'll make actually our roster schedule in this Discord public so that people can know when I'm not free and stuff.
Yeah, awesome.
But I'm like, I don't know, I'm like really pushing my team right now to do 4-hour blocks every day. Like 4-hour scrim, like we usually do 2-hour scrims, 2-hour VODs, which is like really valuable
right.
for contenders teams, I guess.
Right. So we tend to play twice a week, which is Tuesday, of which Saturday is a match followed by a scrim, and then the Tuesdays tends to be like an in-house kind of just for fun kind of thing that we do, followed by a scrim. But I really like this idea. I know it's a bit late for metal though, but if we do scrim followed by exactly what we just did today, like on the same time frame, I think works for us, and finish at 11. So I think we can squeeze that in.
Yeah, like that's
Exactly.
huge for you guys. Like I know so many open div teams that don't do VODs after scrims and they just stagnate in improvement. Like, and to think that you guys want to do VODs after scrims is insane. Like you guys are gonna improve really fast. And like you guys already have like really good basics for like your dive and stuff. Like I can see it. So it's like looking good.
In terms of other team comps, then do you think like because we've got a main shield medal on Ryan? Do you think we should jump into focusing? Is there anything else specifically that we should look at learning, or just let it be more organic?
I guess I just say play to your strengths. Is my main advice. I think. Like for example, we run a lot of dive because as DPS players, we have a really strong, like probably OpenDiv's best Fire player in Autumn, and one of the best responsive Tracer players. So we play a lot of Fire Tracer because that's our strength, right?
Right.
We play a lot of Zen because we have Base God who's like a really good, he has really good aim, and we have
Right.
Nor who's a really good Messi. So that's like really good. It's like we gelled together really well with what team comps we can play actually. So running your strengths will get you ahead, I think.
Fair enough.
Obviously, if you want to try new things and you think, oh, maybe an Orisa gets lots of value here as opposed to a Winston, then obviously it doesn't hurt to learn.
Right. And what are your thoughts on Hammond / Wrecking Ball?
We've been working stuff out. I've recently directed my team to not run Hammond until we have a specific rollout, because I think Hammond's biggest advantage is to be able to set up without being seen really, really fast. Unlike a Winston, right? A Winston has to jump in, but
Right.
Hammond just moves so fast with his grapple that it's like basically impossible to stop him from diving in.
Right.
That's the biggest advantage for Hammond. So we've been working stuff like rollouts and stuff. I check Reddit. There's like some good rollouts there.
But you need to. But obviously, the whole team needs to be.
Yeah, you have to
like
figure
meshing
out.
with it.
Yeah, you have to figure out. Like we had issues because Hammond's so fast compared to a diva that when a Hammond calls a dive, the diva's usually not ready for it. So I've been like trying to tell my team to wake up to that.
So it's like the diva has to make the dive call, and then the Hammond react or something along those lines.
Yeah, or like just figuring out how many seconds it takes for each person to land is like really valuable, especially with Hammond, who is like a completely new temper. Especially we've been running lots of Hammond, Diva, Sombra, Tracer, and it's like a really weird tempo that a lot of teams are not ready for. So it's definitely interesting.
We had a good run with the Hammond Sombra.
Yeah,
because I trying to play Hammond more, and I play Divas, so getting at the Divas Aga, who was playing Moira in the match we were watching.
Yeah.
So it's hard to kind of build around it when you have people for something else who'd use not on it.
Yeah, there are heaps of teams right now like Dignity and OCE, Dignity, Kanga, even like Korean teams and contenders. They run lots of Sombra Doomfist, which is like an instant delete comp.
Right.
It's like really good if you have a really good Doomfist, but it's like very hard to time. Really, really hard. Like even like we've done about 4 hours of reviews this week, and we're still trying to get it right.
Right. Wow. So is that given our short or limited resources in terms of time, since we only play twice a week, is that something you think we should? I mean, you're saying it's pretty hard to get the timing on the Doomfist Sombra one, of course, but with Hammond's timings as well, do you think it's something that we should dedicate our limited resources to? Is that something that's advantageous while still building? We're still going to learn other stuff while we do that, or is it just like a keep it simple, stupid kind of situation?
I guess it can depend on you guys. Like for example, if like your Hammond player is just like, hey, my other tank buddy, look at this rollout, and then you like find really huge success with it one day, and you're like, oh, this really rolls. Like we recently found one that was really good for first point Anubis, and we've capped with 6 minutes remaining for every day of scrims, and like we just use it, right? And that just came out instantly. That was just from a Reddit rollout, and like some things come instantly, some things take a bit longer. So I guess it just depends on you guys and your strengths and what works for you guys naturally, I guess.
Cool.
Is it cool if I head off?
Yeah, I think that's we should wrap it up. It's late now. All right.
Sorry, it's been a long day.
No, that's cool. Anyone have any other questions before we call it?
I'm keen to do more of this stuff. It's a good
Yeah,
idea.
that's fine. Just feel free to contact me. I gave you guys the link to my Discord. Or like just feel free to PM me. I'm usually around.
Perfect. Gel, really appreciate your time, and we will definitely speak soon.
Yeah, no worries. See you guys later.
Thanks. Have a good night, mate. Cheers.
Bye.
And good night, everyone else.
Bye.
See you guys. Anyone up for some quick play?
The WoW channel.